in our industry, I don't think AI is so in photography and creating context and all of that. AI is really good.
Yeah.
What AI will have a hard time taking away is our human interaction.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe we so over-related yet underconnected that we craving that. So for me, I started about 6-7 months ago. And I said, why do I go to this restaurant all the time? Why? And then I realized it's because of I know the server, I know the chef. Is that human connection?
Yeah, that familiarity.
Yeah. And I think it will be really hard for AI, or at least for the next year or two, for AI to take that away from us, or from AI to come in and totally replace that. And so I think in our industry, I go to the restaurants where everything, the server is a robot, the food comes on conveyor belts. This is all great. It's unique. But when I really want to connect, I go to the certain restaurants all the time because I know I have that human connection. And that for me is what hospitality is.
Welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're joined today by Christian Fischer, the founder of Fischer Research Group. Christian, thanks for joining us.
I'm excited to be here, and I want to learn how to whisk it all up. So
you're at the right place. We're going to whisk it all up. So I love having hospitality professionals on the show. It's just fun. It's so fun to share people's journeys and then lessons, and then just help our listeners, whether they're using Wisp or not using Wisp, but just help them with whatever. And so really, I always like to start with, number one, what you currently do. So it's for people listening in, they're like, oh, what is the Fischer Research Group? So let's start there. What is it? And then we'll kind of get into your past.
Oh, it's a really good question. So we started at 2009. And the idea behind it was I wanted to create a group because I always was very curious about learning. And that's where the research piece came in. For me, I always was wondering, how come XYZ is doing so much better than the other person? I know they have the same background. They went to the same culinary school, but somebody has a little different outcome. So for me, I was always very fascinated. What makes people do what they do? Number one, who did they interact with to learn a lot of stuff? So what I also found was with our research was that a lot of chefs are a skill, a network, or a connection away to have a total different outcome for their business and for their career. So for me, that kind of became our big thing. And then during COVID, we went all in. And so we have a GPO, we have some stakes in some restaurants, we have our online platform. So we have a little bit of that. And then we went to a friend of ours, Sean Walchef. And I said to him, hey, how can we bring it all of this together? He said, you need to do a podcast. I was like, I don't like the way I look on camera. I don't like the way I sound on camera. And that was on a Thursday night. I always tell the story. It was a Thursday, 5 o'clock. Monday, we had the first episode.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, so I always learned if there's somebody who gives you really good advice, you need to act on it. And
that's awesome.
So the other funny thing was, we went about 50 episodes in.
Wow.
And 50 episodes, I was like, I have nothing else to say. And then somebody said, now you just start. So, and then we started something where we kind of want to have different people on our podcast.
Yeah.
And then we do what we call ethical stalking. So we checking you out and we following you. And then people write me this. I have somebody here. His name is Angelo. I have 1.5 pages about Angelo.
That's awesome.
And then my team tells me, hey, this is what I really liked about him. And so we are 160, 170-ish episodes in. We pivot a little bit after the new year. So Monday, we have a new guest. And on Friday, we're trying to do stuff I learned. So the people I spoke to, what I learned, what my clients struggled, what I struggled with. And we have a little rant about that, and hopefully brings value to the listeners.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm still just impressed with Idea Thursday, podcast live Monday. I know it's not the main thing, but I want to. I'm just curious to know, how'd you pull that off? You just like record on your phone? Did you have a setup? Like, how'd you pull that off?
It was one of those things. So I didn't have a setup. So I had a if people know it, so I had an 810 Mini, and I didn't even want to push the buttons because it was just too much. And so we did this call, and I did it with a friend of mine. His audio went out. He was on a phone. It was terrible. It was terrible. But we said, how can we do better? And then we did another one, and then we did another one. So now we have a full setup. We have 4 screens.
That's awesome.
I have a full audio. I have a full video.
That's
because
awesome.
I also learned if a client or a listener gives us the opportunity to connect with them while they're in a car, they should have at least good audio. And hopefully they don't look at video, because I just don't like the way I look on camera. But we want to provide good, valuable, actionable advice to them. And not really advice because we don't tell them anything. We just tell them, hey, this guy's doing this. And we want people to think, oh, if Angelo can do this, oh, so can I. Oh, I never really thought about it the way Angelo talked about it. I want to do this. And so it became the Disruptive Chef, because we feel that we want to disrupt the thinking of people which come to our episodes, because we know they are an insight, strategy, or network away, have a total different outcome.
I love that. I think there's a lesson there for sure, which is like, if you're proud of something, I'm going to butcher the saying, but it's like, if you're proud of, the first version of your release, you waited too long, right? And whether it's a podcast, whether it's a tech product, whether it's whatever, usually it's like, if you're super proud, if you're not embarrassed, you waited too long, right? So I think you did it right, and I commend you for that. Christian, I know you've been in the hospitality space for a long time. You also go by the Disruptive Chef, so we'll talk about that. But I'm curious, like, just going back, I always like to understand, when did people kind of get into it? So when did you start your journey into hospitality? When and how? Right? Like, what brought you there?
It's all my parents' fault. Parents are the worst. I grew up in a hospitality industry. My parents owned a hotel, and my dad always said, "Hey, Christian, you need to take over the hotel." And I have 5 brothers, 5 sisters. So my
5 brothers and 5 sisters.
My parents had very few hobbies. So, and then the funny thing is, out of all of the 11, I'm the only one left in the industry. And so I went through a 6-year apprenticeship, and full transparency, I was like, I'm not going to go in there. So we're doing something totally different. I went 1 year pre-med, and we were about 8 months in, and I will never forget this. They were like, okay, first time, Christian, did you practice in incision and incision? There was this guy, 58 years old. I will never forget this. We made a marker on his body, and you need to cut him open. I was like, I practiced on my melons and other stuff. I got him, and I don't know what happened. I passed out. Okay.
Oh shit. Okay.
As I came to it, I was in this room, and the guy says, "You passed out, so that means wrap up your shit and get out." And I was like, I came home on a Thursday. My dad said, "Hey, what are you going to do with your life?" I was like, "I had to take the summer off and everything else." He said, "Okay, you have to Saturday." And on Saturday, he brought me to an apprenticeship to a place where nobody graduated in 11 years. And it was the toughest place I ever worked. I jumped out the back window, went home. My dad brought me back the next morning. He says, this is where you got to go, because this builds a character. And
what kind of place was it?
It was a hotel.
Oh, okay. It was a hotel.
In Austria, the hotels are different. So you work for 6 months, you go to school for 6 months, work for 6 months.
Okay.
So you kind of learn the industry.
It's like a stage. Yeah.
So, and I loved it. I started as a full apprenticeship. You go as a cook and you go as a server. And then I added butcher and baker to it because I loved that side of the industry. Yeah. And eventually fell in love with it. And I always felt this is the only thing I'm good at. And here we are, 35 years later.
Wow. So I think the lesson here is that you couldn't cut open humans, but you could cut meat, if I'm hearing you correctly. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? My wife and I just talked about it. I'm still not really good at it. Even in a butcher, as I had to go out and they said, "Oh, this is the animal you have to kill," I was like, "Whoa, I'm not sure if I can do that."
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing. And I had no problem butchering afterwards.
Right.
But it was so hard for me. And it's even now. And a friend of mine says, "Oh, Christian, you need to come hunting." Because he knows I'm not going to go out shooting nothing. So I'm back there cooking for everyone. Doing nothing. I realized about me. I'm not good about that. And so, yeah, that was my step into the industry.
That's amazing, man. That's so cool. And so what did that look like right over the years? Because obviously I wanted to get into, how you got to the Disrupt Chef and all that. Yeah. But what did your general trajectory look like? I know it's 35 years, but love to hear it.
Really simple. I had 2 jobs in my whole life.
Oh, wow.
So okay. I try not to tell people but I opened up my first restaurant at 19.
Yep.
I had 6 by the time I was 23. And then a company came to me and said, "Oh, we love this concept. Can you bring it to the US? And we want to make it the food concept still for hotels."
Okay.
A long time ago. I was young and dumb. I was like, "Oh, absolutely." Sold my company. Should have asked for a lot more money, but lessons learned. And I worked for Nestle for 20 years. And then they said, "Okay, you can move back to Switzerland or move back to Brazil." And then at the time, I had my wife. And my wife is American. My kids are adopted Chinese. And I was like, "I can go." So I went to a client of mine, which was Compass Group.
Yeah.
And "Hey, in 3 months, I have no job. What do you think I should do?" And the guy says, "You come working for me." So a month later, I worked as the director of culinary for a division of Compass Group, and then became the chief culinary officer for them. And, managed $3.5 billion in revenue. Wow. And then COVID happened, and I always loved what I did. I just didn't like it anymore who I did it for. And at the time I had a 2-year non-compete. And so I went to them during COVID and said, "Hey, how about I don't owe you time and you don't owe me money?" And I walked away, and that was all during COVID. And I always did side hustles. In my life, I owned a magazine franchise. I had so many different things I always did on the side. And then a friend of mine came. His name was Joe Rodriguez. He since passed, but he said, "Christian, we need to give back to the industry." He was from California, an amazing human being. We were on Zoom at the time, 12 hours a day, every day, 6 days a week during the whole time through. And when people called in, we try to give them advice. I say, "Hey, if I'm you, that's what I would do. Hey, this sounds awesome. Have you thought about this?" And it became kind of our thing. And my kids came and called him Uncle Joe at the time. They said good night to him because we were on 12, 13 hours a day on Zoom, And that's what really started it all.
That's amazing. I know I was reading your profile, and one thing that stood out was in your early days, apparently you were one of the youngest in the title of Kitchen Meister. So I love to know, number one, for people that don't know, what is that award? If you can talk a bit about it.
Okay, so it's called Küchenmeister, and so it's the Evergrund. It's the same as a master chef. Yeah. And I was the second youngest, and so full truth be told, I could have been the youngest. I went to the exam, didn't take it serious because the old man made me. And the guy said after 4 days, "Christian, just wrap it up and go home." And I was like, no, I can't go home because my dad, tells me. And I went home. And my dad wasn't too happy. So I said, "Okay, I take it a little bit more serious." I came back and passed it the second go around. But there was somebody 3 weeks younger than me.
Okay.
And so I was the youngest Küchenmeister in Austria, which is, like I said, the European Master Chef exam.
That's so cool.
And you know what the amazing thing was, Angelo? I never did it so I can say I was the youngest. I did it because I wanted to prove myself. Can I do it? Can I do it and be in the stress? Can I do it because I have the knowledge? Can I do it because I want people to learn when they have the opportunity to work for me? So that was really the primary reason I did it.
I love that.
And,
I love that. And look, the truth is, I know you've gone from kitchens to boardrooms. So I'm curious to know: is there a moment that triggered that pivot from, the culinary consulting to the kind of more leadership?
So that's a really, really, really good question. And for me, what started it all was what I learned. So I've been really lucky. People saying, hey, I contribute everything to luck. But I was really lucky that I learned from a lot of different people. I learned about cocktail. I learned about sous. I learned about construction. I learned all of that. And then I seen people really struggled with six things. So that was my thing. I was like, if I all kind of, one of the things I always said, I was really good at seeing patterns. And so I was like, there's really only six things people struggle with. And I said, I can help them because I've been through it. So the consultancy we have today, we started not because we learned about it or we read about it.
Right.
You know what, Angela? I struggled with the same thing that you did. These are mistakes I made. Yeah. And I hope you don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah. Learn from my mistakes, I want to help you avoid some pain. Yeah.
And that was the idea. We wanted to help people to just shorten the learning curve of the things they went through. And
that makes sense. I love that. Honestly, that's half the battle, right? Like everyone's you can't avoid mistakes, period. But the idea is if you can, you said it best, if you can just shorten the cycle, and if you can learn from other people's mistakes, you'll still make your own mistakes. So don't worry. But at least you can avoid some of the common pitfalls because someone else has lived it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like if you're wise, it's like, please do learn from someone else's mistakes. I know a big, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I love that. I love that you spot on. And I still tell a lot of my friends, I'm the guy which probably you see, which I probably made the most mistakes. And I said, I was probably the champion of mistakes. And if I look back, and I have this mentor of mine, he's my mentor for 25 years. And if I would think back of all the things he taught me, and if I would have gone all in on some of that, if I would have listened a little bit more, I would say I was the champion of making mistakes. And the great thing is we helping our clients today, hopefully not making the same mistakes. And we teaching them to, hey, I've been there. I made the same mistakes.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I know, you go by the disruptive chef. So I have to ask you, well, what does disruption look like for you in today's, hospitality landscape?
It's really speed to market. So for me, that's if you do anything, and that's to any of your listeners, I implore you, doesn't matter what you want to be going into, get micro-focused or macro-focused on what you want to do. Become the champion of whatever it is. If you want to be podcast all the time, all day long, so you become the best. If you want to do peanut butter and sandwiches, become the best in peanut butter and sandwiches. So for me, I honestly feel where technology is going, that everything is becoming micro-focused. The days of a 200 menu item restaurants are gone.
Yeah.
And so
except for Cheesecake Factory.
You want to be known as the guy when people talk about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Oh, you need to go to Angelo's place. This is amazing. This is what he does. And I honestly feel that's where the direction is going, and that's where our industry is going. And if you hyper-focused on one or two projects and do better than anybody else, you will succeed.
I love that. That makes sense. Speed to market. I love that. And how do you balance, let's say, maybe tradition with innovation, right? It's like, it's a hard thing to do. Curious to get your perspective.
I always tell the story. About a year ago, I took one of my team members and said, okay, 90 days. You have 90 days. You have $10,000. Let's research every single AI tool that is available, because AI, I said we need to go all in. And what I realized is that use AI as a tool. And now we're looking at it differently. I said, okay, let's everybody use AI so you can free up at least an hour a week. How about great would it be if we do 5 hours a week?
Exactly.
And so if you're asking me how you balance that, I think history, or whatever you want to call it, leaves clues. So if you look at those clues and overlay what's going on in the industry to make it better, you have a winning formula.
That makes sense. It's a good way of looking at it. And I'm all about buying back time as well. And for people listening out there, it's like, I know there's so much buzz about AI, but I always, and I tell my team this all the time, like, guys, I know you're busy and you're dealing with clients and this and that, but like, trust me, don't sit on the sidelines, because it's like when the internet came out, probably even crazier, but it's like, imagine the internet came out and you had someone saying, hey, I think this internet thing, we could probably, I don't know, do orders online. And you're like, son, I'm busy, running the restaurant. You're like, but I think there's something here. It's so new that it doesn't feel like it's hard to imagine. But that's where we are with AI. And I keep telling my team, and they've gone pretty good at this, but it's like, guys, it could be, how do you make your lives easier? How do you make the customer lives better? How do we focus on less granular things and you focus on more important things, right?
Angela, you spot on. And I honestly believe in hospitality, because one of my other beliefs is that as a human society, we overconnected yet underrelated. And in our industry, I don't think AI is so in photography and creating context and all of that. AI is really good.
Yeah.
What AI will have a hard time taking away is our human interaction.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe we so over-related yet underconnected that we craving that. So for me, I started about 6-7 months ago. And I said, why do I go to this restaurant all the time? Why? And then I realized it's because of, I know the server, I know the chef. Is that human connection?
Yeah, that familiarity.
Yeah. And I think it will be really hard for AI, or at least for the next year or two, for AI to take that away from us, or from AI to come in and totally replace that. And so I think in our industry, I go to the restaurants where everything, the server is a robot, the food comes on conveyor belts. This is all great. It's unique. But when I really want to connect, I go to the certain restaurants all the time, because I know I have that human connection. And that for me is what hospitality is.
Love that. Yeah, and I'm a creature of habit too. It's like, obviously I love trying new places, but there's always those few restaurants in my neighborhood that I go to a lot more often than I'd like to admit, because it's like, it's predictable, which in a good way. It's like, I know I'm going to get food I'm imagining. I know what the service I'm imagining. So it's just those less unknowns, which sometimes is nice. You're just like, I'm going in. It's a sure bet. I know what I'm getting, and I like it. So
no, spot on.
No, well said.
I honestly feel if your listeners really write out why they go to a certain restaurant, they will find, there might be some truth to that. I go here because I'm craving this. Or I go here because they're giving me something else. Or I'm thinking of this place because there's some value in it for me. And that
makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. And obviously over the years, a lot of things change. You grow, you learn a lot. So one question that comes to mind is, what's a belief that you've held earlier in your career that you've now completely changed your mind about?
Oh, that's a really good question. And for me, it was that you needed to know everything about everything. Mm-hmm. And I spent a lot of time in my youth learning as much as I could. Just the name of our organization, Fischer Research Group, probably tells you a little bit about it. We were constantly looking, how can we take the context and the stuff we learn and kind of convert it. So I think that absolutely changed. And for me, I always use the story. I don't know if you know Wayne Dyer. I went to a conference with Wayne Dyer in New York City. Okay. I was actually supposed to go to a different event, but I made a mistake driving into the city. Okay. I'm going in. We about 40 minutes late. And the usher comes and said, just go up front. We are in the very front, very first row. There's Wayne Dyer. I was like, oh crap, we went to the wrong event. Okay. We going in there, and he says, oh, welcome. What's your name? I said, Christian. He said, we all Christian in here. And now can you turn around and look at the people? You see these 7,500 people. And now the 7,500 people look at Christian. This is what you look like when you don't plan and you come 40 minutes late. I was like, it's going to be a long day. But I fell in love with his teachings. And he said one thing which became one of the things we do all the time. And he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I'm driving home and I said, what the heck did he mean when you changed the way you look? It bothered me so much. So I came back the next day to him, even though we paid for somebody else. I was like, and then because of what we had, we were allowed to have lunch with him. And I said, what did you mean, as you said, when you changed the way? He says exactly that. When you change the way you look at things, the way you came in here, everything changes. If you look at all of the things which happened for you to come to this place, the way you came 40 minutes late, the way you looked at, I asked you to be up front, changes everything. And for me, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, so true. And it became one of our life mottos, if you want to call it, because when I get upset with something, I sit here in my office and say, if I look at this differently, what would I see? If I think about it differently. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, became our driving force for everything.
That's really cool. Really cool. And I want to also get into some of the ways you could help people today. Because like I said, we have a lot of restaurant listeners, bar listeners, operators, chefs, you name it. And the idea is if I can ever introduce, people to my network, it's like, great. Maybe there's some people that can take advantage and help and get what they're looking for. And so I want to dive more into kind of, the Fischer Research Group. I know one of the leadership programs you have is Table for One. So I'd love to maybe know what inspired it and how it's different from maybe other leadership trainings.
Another good question. And I always said the Table for One, the name says it all, because there needs to be a time where you are honest with yourself and you sit, and I use the metaphor, the Table for One, but where you sit by yourself, nothing in front of you, and you said, why am I here? Why or what happened to get me here? And when you realize that you are the combined averages of all the decisions you make, it kind of gets clearer. And then there also needs to be a time where you say, hey, I wish I would be further ahead by now. And when that comes, it says, so now where you realize that, and then I always said it needs to be a table of one, because we are really honest when we're by ourselves. And that's really the metaphor of the table for one. Because
that's cool. I like that.
The moment you are speaking really honest to yourself, a solution is really easy. And I'm a really strong believer when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so for me, the table for one became a metaphor because there was a time I was sitting on a table for one. And I was sitting there and I was saying, I wish I would be further ahead by now. And that started it all.
That's really cool. And so what can people expect? Like, if we talk about the leadership training, who is this good for? So, again, we have a lot of listeners who are like, this sounds intriguing. Who's the ideal kind of profile that you guys can help?
So it's really simple. So if you feel like you're stuck in anything you do, or if you feel like you've been trying the same thing over and over again and just never got the results you wanted, or if you just need as simple as, I need to get clear because I'm stepping back. For me, all of that is helping people that get clear. Because when you clear, it's easy to communicate. It's easy to start a restaurant. If you have clarity, it's easy to market. If you are clear, it's easy for you to know what is the next steps. If you are clear, you know exactly who to marry. If you get clear, you know exactly what to do next. And for me, the table for one is anybody who is searching for clarity, anybody who wants more out of life, and anybody who knows that they are meant to serve the community in a greater way. The table for one leadership is where it's at.
I love that. And you speak a lot about helping, others find their deeper purpose. So I'd love to know what's like that connection between purpose and maybe performance in the hospitality space.
So for me, I honestly believe that purpose is the point which kicks you off.
Okay.
And people think it's motivation. I think motivation is something, but I don't think motivation exists. So I think if you know there's the purpose of what I want to do, if you are really clear of who I want to help, if you're really clear of what I want to do, then it's easier to do it when you figure out what is my purpose. And my purpose for me, what I realized is to help people, which I was 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So for me, if you ask me what is the difference between purpose and what is anything else, for me, purpose is who you are. What are you meant to create? And then what you do, the tasks or whatever you call it, is what will you do with the time you're given and with the skills you're given? And for me, it all starts with a table for one. And it all starts to get really clear for who you are and discover your purpose. And we have this tool we use. And the tool is really simple, where we're asking you, what do you want to do? Give me a name. And then we ask you a series of questions. Yeah. And then in the end, you will say, oh my God, I never really thought about that. Because when you ask that question a few times, the first 4 or 5 times, it's you answer from here. And I would say after the 4th or 5th time, you answer from here. And that becomes your driving force. Because when I feel down, if I feel stuck, and I go to that, which for me, everything it is when I peel it all back is I want my kids to have choices. You know, I have 3 adopted children. They all had special needs, medical-wise. They never had a choice. They never had a choice that their parents left them in front of the orphanage gate. Then they had never a choice that they were moved from orphanage to orphanage to orphanage. They never had a choice that nobody wanted them, because a kid usually gets adopted within 2-3 years. The kids are adopted at 6 to 9 years old. Wow. So there was a point where they knew if there's nobody coming, I will become an orphanage worker. So for me, I want everything I do is for my kids to have choices. And you know, to finish that up, the kids never had choices that somebody looking different, sounding different, smelling different brings him on a plane, flies 15 hours back, and then brings him to home where everybody looks different, everybody sounds different. So for me, if I peel it all back, and what is my motivation, and if you're asking me what is my purpose, is for me to create a platform for my kids to have choices. And that drives all of it.
I love that. That's purpose. That's amazing. I know a big thing when it comes to leadership is I think about the back house, right? So, what is maybe a mistake or a common? It could be a mistake or a few, but what are some common mistakes or mistake that you see happen often in the restaurant world?
So, I think there's 3 things, if you don't mind.
There's
please. 3 things I look at.
Even better.
Number one, where people kind of lose what they're really all about. And for me, I always use the example. We had this Italian place not far from here. And during COVID, by the way, 6th generation, 5 places in Connecticut. Oh. On the other side of the road, there was a barbecue joint. COVID happened. The barbecue joint said, okay, people can come in. I bring him outside. He built this hut where 4 people can park. And then there was a video screen where you could see what's going on behind the scene. He has today 4 locations. And the other restaurant, which had 6, which was an established 5th generation, is gone. And for me, I was said that...
That's a lesson.
Yeah. Success leaves clues. And history lives close. So for me, that's number one. Because if you think, just because we did it like this all the time, you will succeed. That's my number one. My second one is that we lose focus on how we want to serve our customers. Because it doesn't matter if you have a pizza restaurant next door, if you serve pizza, if you serve your customer like nobody else. I use the example of a good friend of mine. They have an Indian restaurant. They're in the heart of St. Louis. And if you go to their place, and I walked in a few months ago and I said, oh my God, you're still not open with the dining room? He says, no. You know, I had a hard time finding staff. I says, so what do you do? So he says, I only do takeout. And so I took takeout from him. The box I got, he must have spent $5 just on the box. Okay. It was the knife and fork was the best I had in a long time. I wanted to wash it and travel home with me. Back to him, I was like, this is the most amazing thing. He said, I knew I spent $4.50 a customer on my staff. Wow. And what I wanted to do is kind of make them realize that they're important to me. So he pays the $4.50. His containers are amazing. The forks are nice napkins. And for me, I was like, wow, so true. Just the second thing. And for me, the third thing is you need to have fun. At the end of the day, people come to you because they want to escape something, and dining with you, hanging out with you, do something only you can do. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 restaurants with the same ethnic background. There's only you can do what you are meant to do. And if you do this one thing only you can do, that's really easy. And for me, just figure that out. What is the way you know you can serve people only better than anybody else? And the rest is really simple. So those are my 3.
Well said. Well said. As we're coming up on wrapping up, I want to do 2 things. First of all, I want to give a chance to plug away, because people are listening to this. We're going to put obviously links in the notes and all that. But how can people find you? How can they find the company? So just go ahead and plug away.
Yeah. So now, first off, I appreciate the conversation. And by the way, anybody listening to this guy, make sure you kind of write down what this guy does, because he's absolutely amazing in what he does. Not only is he amazing in what he does, is you connect with people like only you can. And I absolutely love that about you.
Appreciate that.
So our thing is really simple. Everything starts with Christian J Fischer. People think, what does the J do? It's like, hey, if you go Christian Fischer, there's a really good DJ with the same name. There's a very good athlete in Austria with the same name. So I put my J in everything. So it's Christian. If you go Christian J Fischer, you find all of that. If you do the House of Humans, whatever you want to search for, any of our programs. But if you go to Christian J Fischer, everything else filters out from there.
Perfect. Okay, that's easy. Christian J Fischer, cool. And do you like for people to typically connect with you on LinkedIn, on Insta, or you have no preference?
Yeah. So for me, connect with us anywhere. If you come on any of our channels, hey, DM us. We on LinkedIn, we have 30-something thousand followers now. Come and check us out on LinkedIn. We respond back to you, I promise, really quickly.
That's cool.
And if we can help you in any way, just let us know. And if we can help you, we find you the right person to help you.
I love that. And then last but not least is, what's next for you guys? So like, if you just think of the next couple of years, like anything interesting you want to share?
So, if, by the way, you guys heard it here first. So if you asking me if you want to look behind the scenes, there is 2 things we do. So for me, from a personal side, I want to get better in being me. And for me, I make a conscious effort in doing more athletic stuff. Lost 30 pounds. Wow. I want to be a better version of me. So thank you. So that's my personal side. From my business side, if you want to look behind the curtains, is we took 40% of our organization and we're going to make it employee owned. And the reason we're doing this is I have a really amazing team. I want the team to know that I appreciate them. I want the team to stay with me as long as they can. I want the team to know that when you peel it all away, it wouldn't happen without them. And so for me, that's what we're working on.
That's
from
really
a personal
cool.
side and what we're working on the business side.
Very cool. I love that. Well, look, with that said, you guys know how to connect with Christian. So Christian, thanks for joining us. Once again, it's Christian J Fischer from the Fischer Research Group joining us on the Whisking It All podcast. It was such a pleasure to talk with you and to hear your story. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. And to your listeners, make sure you guys copy what he does. He is absolutely amazing in what he does. And thanks for the opportunity to meet your audience. And I'm really excited for that. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. If you want to learn more about Whisk, head to whisk.ai and book a demo.